Hello there, welcome to my video on Webpack. Here I'm going to talk about the first requirement. It's about implementing Webpack in an existing application. So I took an empty project folder and I initialized npm. Um, then I'm gonna install a bunch of dependencies like Webpack client, and Webpack dev server as dev dependencies. I'm gonna install them. Let's wait for them to finish installing. There it is. It's done installing. And next, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna create a folder called src, in which I'm gonna create index.js file. Inside this JS file, I'm gonna write an alert statement, just like so. And then for Webpack, I'm gonna create a config file, which is called webpack.config.js file, which holds all the configurations for Webpack. It's written like module.exports, where it exports an object. Inside this object, I'm gonna have a mode as development, and it also has an entry point, which the entry point will be the index.js file inside src folder. And it also has a output. The output I'm gonna give here as bundle.js. It's bundle.js. So it's gonna create a bundle.js file once it bundles all the code that we have written. Now I'm gonna go to package.json and create a script command using which we can run the build command for Webpack. So in the terminal, when I run npm run build, it's gonna create a build folder. But we got an error. This error is because the output that we wrote in the configuration is not a correct way of writing it. We have to specify file name. File, there you go. File name bundle.js. If I run it now, it's gonna create a dist folder. Dist is a default folder name that gets bundled into, but I want to change that name to some other name called output. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna use path. I'm gonna import it, and I'm gonna write path.resolve and specify the directory name as output. So after we write this and we run the build command, it's gonna create a output folder. Inside this output folder, all our bundled code is going to reside, just like that. Now I can also change the mode to production. When I change the mode to production, the code gets minified. If you can see now, the bundle.js has only alert statement. When I change it to production to development, you can see the difference. It has a lot of code inside bundle.js. This is because of mode that we are using. Difference between production and development. Now I'm gonna create a HTML file. Oops, I think I created a JS file. I think I need to rename it to HTML. And now I'm gonna get the boilerplate code for HTML, and inside that I'm gonna use the script tag to use the bundle.js from the output folder. And I'm gonna write a command inside package.json inside scripts as a serve, which should serve our like which should open the local server. um, for that, I'm gonna write some configurations inside Webpack config using dev server key. Inside that, I'm gonna specify my path to be using the directory name. And I think I also need to make a few more configurations. It should show an error. Yes, that's because we are missing the port. Let me show you inside the Webpack website about dev server. So we have to specify the port, and also the path should use the directory just like that. I think we need to change the port as 9000. I'm already using that, so I'm gonna change it back to 8080. And now if I run the server, we can see the output on the left side. If you can observe here, the index.html file, we are manually writing it, and then we are manually specifying the JS file that it has to use, the bundled up JS. But we can also dynamically include this HTML file. How we can do this is by using HTML loader. It's a loader, and also a HTML Webpack plugin. We are going to install them as dev dependencies. You can see them in the package.json here now. And inside Webpack config file, I'm gonna write a module with, inside that there is a rules which takes an array of loaders. We can specify the loaders here. Here for HTML file, I'm gonna test for the HTML extension for the files and use a HTML loader on those files. And I'm also gonna specify the plugin, HTML Webpack plugin, which makes the HTML file to be loaded dynamically, bundled dynamically into the bundled folder, the output folder. And we don't need this static object here, so I'm gonna take that away. And also I'm gonna make some changes inside the HTML file. I'm gonna run the build. We got into error. I can tell you why we got that error, but let me first make some changes, like moving the index.html into the source folder and also removing the script tag inside the HTML. And the error is because inside Webpack plugin I specified the HTML loader as a variable, but it has to be a string. So I made that change, and now I'm gonna build it. Now you can see the HTML file inside the output folder, and it also has a script tag which is automatically written by Webpack, which is using the bundle.js. And if I run this, it is working fine. It shows the output correctly. Next, let's go to the second requirement, which is to use loaders to embed images into HTML. For this, I'm gonna go to the Webpack website, and show you asset modules. Here it says prior to Webpack 5, it is common to use these loaders for files, but after Webpack 5 is introduced, we are gonna use asset modules for files. So for images here, I'm gonna use asset resource, which replaces the file loader. And for the images, I'm gonna test for JPEG or JPG, and use instead of use, we are gonna specify the type as asset resource. That's how we specify that we are using a asset module. And the next thing we are gonna do is we're gonna download a image and save it inside our project folder. For this, I'm gonna create a images folder and move it inside to src and move our image into images folder. And now what we are gonna do is inside the HTML file we are gonna specify the image that we want to use. As it's a PNG, remember the PNG extension, I think we got to make some changes for that. So we are gonna use the asset resource, and also we are gonna specify a generator. I think this is for specifying into which folder um, the file has to go. And now let's try to delete the output folder, and now let's build it again. Let me check the command. So npm run build, it should build. Inside output we have our HTML, but we did not get our images folder bundled. Maybe that's because something is missing in the config. Let's double check. I think we got to specify the asset module file name in the output. That means for asset modules this has to be the path, output path. So it has to go into images folder with the name and extension. Let me delete the output folder and now build it again. And no, we did not get our image. There should be something missing. I think what's missing is we need to specify the PNG extension, and let's run it. No, let's delete it. And I think what's missing is we need to specify template inside the plugin, the index.js file inside src. And now let's run the yes, we got our images with the image. And now if we run the server, I think we should see the output with the image. There we go, we got our big image. And that's about loading images using asset modules. The next topic is code splitting. Code splitting is an important feature of Webpack. Using code splitting, the Webpack, what it does, it splits the code into small chunks, and these chunks can be loaded on demand, which makes which has a great impact on the load time. Here I'm gonna achieve code splitting using dynamic imports. For that I'm gonna take away the image tag and put a button using by writing a click me, and also have a ID called btn. And next I'm gonna go to index.js and take away the alert statement inside there, and I have to make some changes in the Webpack config by installing certain packages like Babel loader and Babel core and Babel plugin syntax dynamic import. These are required for using dynamic imports. I'm going to install them as dev dependencies, and there they are installed. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a file called babelrc.babelrc. Inside that I'm going to specify the Babel plugin syntax dynamic import as plugins to use the Babel. And I'm also going to specify a role which has to test for the JS files. So the test has to have .js extension, look for JS extension, and it has to exclude all the node modules files. So I'm going to specify that, and the loader we are going to use is Babel loader. After this, I'm also going to change the file name to take the name .bundle.js, as it's gonna create chunks files, extra files. So every file has to be different, and it has to take different names, so that's fine. And inside the index.js I'm gonna get that button element, and I'm gonna add event listener for that element. So whenever you click on that button, this listener has to run inside the callback. I'm gonna get the body tag. For that body tag, I'm gonna append a div. First I need to create the div, so I'm gonna say document.create element div. So the div gets attached, appended to body. So inside this div I'm gonna append an image. How do I get the image? For that I'm gonna create image.js file. Inside that image.js file I'm gonna import the Webpack image that we have saved before. I'm gonna copy the name of it and then paste it here inside our PNG. And now I'm gonna write a function. Inside this function I'm gonna get the image, create an image element, and also give the source as the previous URL that we have imported and return that image. And now I'm exporting the function load image. Inside the JS file, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna get that load image and I'm gonna call that load image. This here we are directly calling this. We are not using any kind of dynamic imports. Later I'm gonna show how to use the dynamic imports, but now I'm building it, and then we got our main.bundle.js as we have renamed it. And now if we run the server, we should see the button, and when we click the button there is the image. But now everything is bundled into main.bundle.js. But for code splitting, we have to split the code using dynamic imports. How we can achieve that is, we'll go back to the index.js. Here I'm gonna comment the import. Now we have to dynamically import. So how do we do that is, I will take away the load image and I have to import it inline, as it is going to happen dynamically. For the dynamic import, it uses promises, so I have to specify then. Let me just change this, like first let me just import, and then after importing that I get the file image. So now I'm gonna append, call the image. I have to call the load image function. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna say image.load image. I think image is not, yes, image is required, as that is the object in the callback. So when I build this, if you can see here, there are two files created, main.bundle.js and source image.js.bundle.js. Two files are created. So when I run the server and if I inspect the code, initially there should be only main.bundle.js. After I click the file, you should see source image.js.bundle.js. That's how we can split the code. After code splitting, let's move to tree shaking. Tree shaking is nothing but elimination of dead end code. Let's go to the website of Webpack and see how to achieve tree shaking. So here, as you can see, it is dead end code elimination. Let's go to the bottom of the page and see how we can achieve. Let's see the summary. How we can achieve tree shaking. For that, first one says use to ES 2015 module syntax, that is nothing but import and export. And also we have to make sure that it doesn't convert import and export to common JS, that is nothing but require syntax. So, and also add some side effects in the package.json and use the production mode. So let's go to the top, and here is an example. I'm gonna follow a little bit of this example. So I'm gonna create a math.js file. Inside that I'm gonna create couple functions. One is the add function. Inside that I'm gonna add 2 and 3. I'm gonna return that value, and also I'm gonna create a mul function which multiplies 2 and 3 and returns that value. So we are exporting these two functions, and now let's see here. We have exported these. Now we have to import them. Here in the image img.js file, I'm gonna import only add function. So I'm gonna print that value into the console. That means I'm using the add function only. So what happens is it has to use only the add. The mul function is not used. It has to ship that. Now as we are using Babel, it will convert to require common JS syntax. For that we are gonna specify a configuration. So let's go back to the webpack.config.js file and add this optimization object. So in that we used exports to true. So it uses imports and exports. And now what we will do is we're gonna side effects to false inside package.json. So if there is any side effects, doesn't have the side effects. Now we have to change the production to mode to production. And now when we delete, I'm gonna delete the output and then build. The only add should be there. The mul should be shaken off. So there you go. I built it, and if you can see here, the main bundle and the image bundle is there. Inside the main bundle I don't see any add function, but in the image the console is present and the 5 value is also there, but there is no mul function. Mul function is totally gone out of this. That means it's shaken off. That's like a dead end code. Now if I run the server, inside the server also I'm gonna show you by inspecting the code. If I inspect the code and go to sources, the bundle.js is there. When I click the button, it's gonna get the image.js code. In that there is the adding of the add function is there, but the mul function is not there. That's how we shake the code that is dead end code. That's it for today's video. I hope you liked my video on Webpack, and if you like it, please do like, share and subscribe. Thank you for watching. Have a great day. Bye bye.